Welcome to Agile Guru, the best place to learn. My name is Gurumurthy Raghupati, or Agile Guru as they call it. And today we're going to talk about a way to make your software delivery more reliable, but more speed and doing more work. Uh, this topic is of feature flags, is considered to be a very modern way of releasing without biting your nails together. So I hope you really enjoyed this video. It will be around 30 to 35 minutes. If you have any questions, please ask it in the chat video or the chat section of the video, and we'll take it from there. So thank you very much for joining in, and we will be starting in round about a minute, but today's feature of feature flags is going to be a lot of fun, and there will be a demo on how to install and everything. So welcome again. My name is Gurumurthy Raghupati, and today we are going to talk about feature flags, or feature flags, your secret weapon for software delivery. So let's get started. I'm sure there are people who are developers, release managers, or release engineers. Each time when there is a production release or a UAT release, they all start biting their nails. Oh, if this goes wrong, what will happen? Will there be a live impact, or there will be a user impact? To reduce this, what they do is waste a lot of time on regression testing again and again in non-production environment. But that does not mean that what you're doing in live or customer environment, which has a huge amount of data to work out. Let's assume you write some code and you want to deploy it. Now there will be lots of tasks or features which may override each other, or you want to deliver it at the same time, but some may be ready and some may not be ready. What you really want is a way to mechanism to either configure them or turn on or turn off them based on some criteria, which may be environment specific or some other specifications. With this centralized manager service, what you can do is make sure that you deliver fast and get a proper feedback in every environment, but also in live to see what you have done is correct or not. This is to do to ensure that you don't have too much backlog remaining for delivery so that the customer does not have to wait for his or her feature to be live and working. We will use a simple environment where we are going to have a test application called at app.dev.agileguru.org, which is just a listing page of all the UK holidays for the last 3-4 years. And if you have any questions, please ask. And what we're going to demo is how can you turn on something or off something, but also how to change the configuration at runtime per environment. And we'll be using two environments. One is dev and one is set. What we will do is try to change things at runtime without redeploying the code. The code has already been deployed, so technically we will not be deploying. And we will be showing you what are the features from an open source solution which will help you do this. So you can self-host it or deploy it in the cloud without much cost. The only thing may be dependency, maybe to have a database and a application which runs in Docker. Okay, so let's continue. The first topic being why. Why are we using feature flags? Remember, service deployment is a risky business. Like for example, I may be deploying one feature, my other colleague may be deploying other feature, and two, three together they are deploying, try to achieve a business goal or goals, and which may or may not work together in one go. So you want Customer demands more features. The course and return and merge frequently. This happens when you have lots of CI and CD deployment. Then what happens is features are business sensitive. For example, one stakeholder may say, I want this feature, and the other stakeholder may say, I want this. Both are needed at the same time. And when you try to deploy, and some configuration may be wrong or not tested properly due to some load issues, then you may have an outage. When you have an outage, you have to roll back, and rollbacks are normally not that fast, especially if they are related to database changes as well. So one of the things you can do is to make sure is to eliminate this risk. How you can do it, I'll show it to you later. As I said, service deployment is risky. Modern services are distributed, so you may have a lot of components which are working together, and each service needs more configuration. Oh, if it's dev, go to here, and if it's sid, go to there, or service, or more integration is required, especially in live. And of course, humans makes errors, and and in code and in configuration, obviously, which leads, if we cannot switch off or change at runtime, we may have to undeploy or redeploy the configuration changes, which of course leads to downtime, which is not acceptable in this modern world. What we really need is an on-demand configurator. It's like, oh, this is not working, switch it off. Switch off the link so that they don't see the link. And then we will find out what is the problem and then enable it. Maybe need a release, but at least we don't show something which is not working, which is even worse. So a way to switch off a functionality or configure per environment. For example, in a test environment, you can say, hey, I want the functionality to work in certain way. And in prod, I want to test it in a different way till we are ready. And then once it is ready, the functionality will remain same across various environments. One thing also is if you want to switch on or off, I don't want to deploy 5 times or 6 times. No. For example, you may have like a discount enabler at different time. Let's say at Christmas, you don't want to have zero, you don't have to have a downtime. So to have a zero downtime or a high availability, you don't want to undeploy and deploy applications. And of course, when you want to do these kind of things, can you deploy or A/B testing? This is the best way to have an on-demand configurator to help you switch on, off, configure, redirect, whatever may be the case. And one such system is feature flags. What you do in a feature flag based system is you define environments. For example, you define keys, API keys for security, obviously, because you're doing it from the server side, not from the client side, right? From an application point of view. So you define environment and associated keys like one for dev, one for SIT, and one for UAT, and of course, one for prod. Once you define the key, this is the main way you access the feature flags and say, okay, what is the value I'm going to get for a certain flag? And based on that flag, whether you want to switch on or switch off. Now, the data which comes from these feature flag based systems are two types, either a Boolean or a variant data type with metadata. Like, for example, color of the page is a good option. And of course, each one of them has a default value and some rules. One of the things you have to understand that feature flags is not part of the application, it's an external system. So it's a centrally managed operations. For example, a same feature flag application or a system will manage n number of environments, dev, SIT, UAT, and prod. Okay, right. One good thing about those things are because it's centrally managed. It can be maintained by the operation team. So any changes which you need, you know, need only like a second. Oh, please switch it off. The business owner can ask. And the good thing is because it's centrally managed, it's more secure. And the operation people, developers don't need to kind of switch on or switch off because we don't want this to happen at developers level in production. And let's say you deploy one application and see if it's working in live and you find out it's not working, you don't want to undeploy it, just turn off the applications or the functionality. And it should be easy to set up and consume. We don't want to have some like 10 step system where you have to write an email and they go and change something and do something. No, just use a switch to do that. Now, choosing a right solution is also very, very important. It should be easy to install and maintain, allow single sign-on so that the right people can log in and make changes. It should have various storage options like maybe write into a database or an S3 bucket or GCS bucket or even Git if you are preferring for GitOps. And the main important is to provide SDK for various languages. Remember, feature flag is a third-party system. So you need SDKs to connect to feature flags to get the values. Like it should be at least in Golang, Java, Python, and Node.js for sure. These are the minimum, and if you have more, that's even better. And if it's open source or free of use, even better. There are lots of options. You can visit openfeatures.org to find out what are the different solutions which is available in the market. For our demo purposes, we're going to use flipped.io. Flip.io is a self-hosted Docker-based solution, and it can be installed onto a Kubernetes cluster directly using a manifest or using a Helm chart. And I have installed it as a Helm chart, and I'll show you the demo on that one. What is Flip.io? It defines a UI where you can define all the things which I have mentioned before, like your namespace, your API keys, and your flags. And these flags can be of the type Boolean or it can be of actual value. Okay, till let's see if I have any questions coming up. Looks like there are no questions. So yes, we will going on. So let's start with the demo. Right, now the first thing to demo is how to install this software. What you need to do is I'm using Helm charts. So what I have done is use Argo CD to install it. I go to the Helm chart flipped and I'm using the version 0.84.4. But the main important being the values which is provided, right? So the values are, for example, I'm using a database, which is a Postgres database. So Postgres username, password, the host name and everything. And then you can say whether you want to use authentication. I'm using single sign-on with Google Auth2. So that way I can log in using Google Login. And this is a simple verse. There is not much to do. And the session expiration is 24 hours. And once you do that, you can continue. The one thing also is the ingress. I'm going to execute this at features.alacriticis.com. So that's what we're going to use. Now, for the application to consume this one, I have created some feature flags which we'll be using. And these are the user IDs and the keys, and it uses internal traffic. So that's how it works. So let's start. And this is the installation. If you have any doubts, please reach out to me and I can show you how to install it on your own system. It should not take much time. Once the installation is done, you get a GUI something like this. And let me log off first and log in back again so that you can see how it works. So I'm using login. You can use normal as well. So I'm going to log in with my username and password. And and now if you see, the first thing you need to do is set up your namespaces. Here I have defined a default namespace which is normally used for local host or something, then development environment, system testing, and all the demo environments. Today we're going to use dev and SID, by the way. And then you create API token. Just be aware that once you create a token, you cannot see it again. So make sure what you're defining is correct and the scope. For example, the scope of a token should be a single namespace. I seriously say that please do not use a token which is working across namespace. Is just confusion. And my suggestion is have an expiry on date if possible, but most of the time you don't need to. It all depends. Yeah. So that's how you define your namespace. Namespace is the environment, and your tokens is the SDK token, which is used by your application to get the values of your flags. So here I have defined two flags. One is called isProd environment and the theme, right? How this is going to be used, I'm going to show you first. For example, I'm going to say, hey, I'm defining a flag which is a true or false, and it's saying, is this a prod environment, right? And if you see the rollout, by default value is false, because of course dev environment is prod environment, obviously no. But if I go to, for example, my production environment, and if I look at my flags, it's true, yes, because production is production. So let's go to development environment and see it's false. And there is a second flag which is called theme. A theme may be like, for example, if any of your web applications, if you have seen before, you can see that sometimes companies try new things and they say, okay, do you want a different theme for the users, whether they can choose or we can force them to have different themes like black and white or white, something like that. And it is called of the type variant because there may be for a single key, there may be different values like light and dark. Yeah. So this is how it works. So we're going to define this and then see the live demo. Okay. So let's take the application. This is my dev environment. I'm going to go to my dev environment flag. Now, if you look at this one, it says, hey, dev is a test environment, please. And this is an application. And if you look, the application works and shows me the data. But I want to see how this application looks in a live environment. To do that, I need to get rid of this one. This is a test environment, which is backed up by a feature flag. So what I'm going to do is dev environment. I'm going to go to a flag and I will just turn it on. And I'll update it. Now, if you see, if I click on home, it says welcome to Think, but that test environment is gone, and so is the page. But remember, this is environment specific. In SIT, it remains the same because that token is only valid for dev environment. The flag is only for dev environment. If I want to do this for both environments, I can go system integration testing and I go false and I'll say yes and I update that. So now if I go to my SIT, it says, hey, it's gone. So the way you work is based on true or value, you can enable, disable based on environment. Yeah. Now, because it's true and false, it's okay, not bad. But what happens, for example, you want to allow, let's say this application is black and white or in white color, and you want all the applications to use a dark background. What you can do is, for example, if you look at my HTML, by default, it's light. But this is not hard coded actually. It comes from this environmental variable, right? So let me go to the sit and dev environment. And if you look at my flags, the default value, there are two variables, which is called light and dark, which is what is being, but there is something called rules. Rules says what is the variant or what is the default rule for that variant. By default, I have made it as light. Once you make it light, this is what comes as default. So everything works. Let's say I'm testing this application. I want it to work in the black and white or in the dark mode. What you can do is ask the operations people, hey, can you make it dark? And let's see how it works. Let's say click that. And when I click it, it becomes a dark based application. So the value now gets updated not through the application, but from a third party system or a different system. You see this value dark, it is coming from this flag. Remember, here I'm doing it manually. You can write rules for canary, let's say 80% or 20% or different, what we call as rollouts. You can do that for sure. That way, you can control this one. And if you see, I think the dark version looks far better. And let's see what is the next holiday. 2019, 2021, 23, 25. I think 26th June is a spring bank holiday. So that's, oh no, actually 5 is gone. So the next time is summer bank holiday is on the 8, 2508. So that way, now if you see, and but let's say a stakeholder says, no, I don't like it, please revert back. The only thing I need to do is come back to light and update it. And remember, it is environment specific. So this way you can control your applications without redeploying them in an intuitive and error-free way, right? The only thing you need is a client-side SDK. And these are based on global standards. So that's how it works. So feature flags have become very norm in very big companies where they deploy a lot and they want to test things in live because of the amount of data and the impact and everything. What I have done also is written a blog of it. What is the reasons and what is the thinking behind this one? And this blog is on tech.agileguru.org. If you go and visit the blog, the first one, which is the hot one, will explain in very much detail what is the need for feature flags. So yes, this is what it is, and this is the short video on feature flags. So thank you very much for viewing this, and I will see you on the next video because there are no questions. So have a good one. Thank you very much and have a nice day. And if you want, please get in touch. You can get all the details about feature flags on this blog page. Thank you very much and bye.